I'm Ray, 25, female. I just finished my master's degree in environmental engineering, and I've been living on my own since I turned 18. My dad remarried when I was 14. His new wife, Cheryl, came with her daughter Harper, who was 12 at the time. From the beginning, Cheryl played the part of the sugary sweet stepmom, always hosting themed dinners, organizing photo-perfect family events, and using phrases like blended families are beautiful. But the longer she stayed, the more it felt like she was trying to rewrite the family story, and I wasn't in her version. It started small. A photo here, a trophy there. I'd come over to visit and notice my childhood bookshelf gone, or a framed photo from a family vacation suddenly missing. Once an art piece I made in school, something my dad used to keep on the mantel, just vanished. Cheryl always had an excuse. I thought it was dusty, or it clashed with the paint. When I asked my dad, he'd wave it off and say Cheryl liked to redecorate, and that I was too grown up to care about knickknacks from middle school anyway. I let it slide for years. I had my own life to build, and she clearly wanted to center Harper in everything. Harper's face was on the annual holiday cards. Her dance recital trophies lined the hallway. Her high school volunteer award ended up in a display case that used to hold my academic medals. It wasn't just favoritism, it felt like replacement. Graduating with my master's felt huge to me. It wasn't easy. I worked part-time jobs through undergrad, stayed up too many nights to count, and made it through a pandemic while still holding a 3.9 GPA. My dad was proud, or at least he said he was. He ordered a professional photo session and had my graduation photo custom framed. It showed me in my cap and gown, grinning, holding my diploma. He said one frame was for my apartment, and the other was going in the hallway at his house, front and center, right across from the entry table. He even handed the second frame to Cheryl himself. "We should put Ray's picture up," he told her, smiling. A few weeks after graduation, I drove to their place to celebrate his birthday. I made him a handmade wooden chess set. It had this dark walnut finish, polished and heavy. It took me weeks to get it right. After I gave him the gift and helped him open cards, I wandered down the hallway to see the framed photo. It wasn't there. In its place was a large, glammed-up photo of Harper in her senior prom dress. It wasn't even a graduation picture, just her standing in front of a rental limo in a sparkly red gown, posing like she was on the cover of a magazine. I didn't say anything at first. I walked back into the living room and asked my dad, calmly, where my graduation photo had gone. He looked confused and pointed down the hallway. When we walked back there together, he just stood there blinking at the photo. "Isn't that it?" he asked. I shook my head. It wasn't even the same frame. Cheryl was right behind us, holding a glass of white wine. She gave this airy little laugh and said, "Oh, I thought it was okay to switch them out. Ray's photo didn't really match the color scheme." She said it like she was picking curtains, not erasing someone's academic achievement. Harper was sitting on the stairs, just watching. She didn't say anything. I waited for her to speak up, even just a quick "that's not cool," but she stayed quiet. Maybe embarrassed, maybe just used to letting Cheryl do what she wanted. My dad looked uncomfortable, mumbling that he'd fix it later. Then he patted my shoulder like I should let it go. I didn't argue. I smiled. I stayed for cake. I made conversation with neighbors. I even helped clean up plates. But inside, I was seething. Not because of a photo swap, but because this was just the latest in a long line of quiet erasures. After the guests left, I tried to talk to him alone. I told him this wasn't about decor. It was about Cheryl making sure Harper was the only one who mattered in that house. My dad gave a tired sigh and said, "You know how Cheryl is. Let's not make it a thing." He looked at me like I was being difficult, dramatic even. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I went back to my apartment, opened a blank document, and started typing. Dates, incidents, quotes, pictures. Every time something I owned vanished. Every time my dad made an excuse. Every time Cheryl played innocent while deleting me from my own family. I made a list, not emotional, not angry, just facts. That was the day I stopped trying to be the easy daughter. I wasn't a teenager anymore. I had my own walls now. And if Cheryl wanted to pretend I didn't exist, then I was going to make sure the law remembered me very clearly. Because while Cheryl was planning her fantasy retirement, I was about to make sure reality came knocking with paperwork. A week after the birthday visit, I went back to my dad's house to pick up a few boxes I had left behind when I moved out years ago. He told me to check the attic since Cheryl reorganized some things. When I got up there, I found a neat stack of brown moving boxes labeled with a black marker, MISC, old books, school stuff. All my childhood things, boxed like they belonged to a stranger. My old bedroom downstairs had been completely redone. The walls were painted soft green, the bed replaced with a long white work table, art supplies lined up on shelves that used to hold my novels and sketchbooks. A small sign hung by the door, Cheryl's Craft Studio. None of my posters, none of the photo booth strips I used to pin on the mirror, nothing left that said I ever lived there. One of the boxes was oddly light, and when I opened it, I saw empty slots where books or binders had clearly been. My high school yearbooks were gone. I looked through all the boxes twice just to be sure. When I asked my dad, he said Cheryl probably thought they were old junk and had tossed them. He didn't seem concerned. I didn't argue. I just opened my phone and took pictures of the boxes, the studio, even the attic hatch. I started emailing copies of the photos to myself. I labeled each with the date and a short description. I wasn't just going to trust my memory anymore. Later that night, while my dad was asleep, I borrowed his laptop. I didn't plan to snoop, I just needed to email myself a family recipe he had saved. That's when I saw a document on the desktop named living_draft. I opened it. There was one beneficiary listed, Harper. The house, retirement account, life insurance, all marked for Harper. No mention of me. Not even a line about personal effects. I didn't copy the file, but I did take a photo of the screen with a timestamp, just in case it disappeared later. I told my best friend Olive about it the next day. She's in law school and knows how to think with her head when I can't. She told me to start a full timeline. Not just screenshots and photos, but organized records. She helped me draft a document with every interaction, every instance of erasure, starting from the first time Cheryl accidentally removed my childhood artwork from the living room wall. While we were working on that, Olive asked if my father was helping Cheryl with the retirement property she kept posting about. I hadn't really thought about it, but I remembered something about a joint account and a loan cosign. I started digging. Oregon property records are public. It didn't take long to find a deed transfer on a piece of land under Cheryl's name with my dad listed as a cosigner on the mortgage. The down payment? It came from their joint account and a savings account I recognized. It was the same one my college fund used to be in. I reached out to my dad's sister, Teresa. She had always been kind to me growing up and kept old photo albums in her basement. When I told her what was happening, she went quiet, then asked if I had a pen ready. She gave me names, dates, even offered to ship me duplicates of family photos she kept as backups. She said she knew Cheryl rubbed her the wrong way for a reason. I also messaged Harper. Just a simple, polite message asking if she remembered what happened to the hallway photo. She read it and replied an hour later. Said she didn't want to get in the middle. Nothing else. That was it. Cheryl started posting vague comments on Facebook. Things like, it's funny how people show their true colors when they're not the center of attention anymore, and you know who your real family is. My name wasn't mentioned, but the timing lined up with when I asked about the will. Calls with my dad got shorter. I'd ask about something serious, and he'd change the topic or end the call early. I brought up the photo once more. He told me not to dredge up the past. That's when I decided to stop waiting for anyone to care. Cheryl wanted to build her perfect retirement fantasy with my dad's money, while pretending I never existed. I wasn't going to let that happen quietly. I found out they were planning to visit the Oregon property that weekend. I told Olive I was going to drive up. Not to start a fight, just to see things for myself. I wanted to know exactly what my dad was tying himself to. Before I left, Olive helped me finalize the summary document. It had everything: property details, will photos, text exchanges, Facebook screenshots. We didn't make it emotional, just a clear, clean, legal outline of what Cheryl had done over the years. I packed a small bag, printed the summary, and charged my phone. I wasn't going up there to make a scene. But if Cheryl was going to treat me like I didn't belong, I was ready to show up anyway, with facts, not feelings. She wanted peace and quiet in the mountains. I was about to introduce reality. The drive up to the Oregon property took most of the day. I knew the general area from public records and a few hints my dad had dropped in past calls. I didn't tell anyone I was coming, just said I might visit if I was nearby. I parked a block away, walked the rest, and showed up with a neutral expression and a small overnight bag. Cheryl opened the door. Her face tightened the second she saw me. Behind her, my dad stood up from the couch, caught off guard but trying to smile. He looked at Cheryl before speaking, like waiting for her permission. She didn't say much, just moved aside and let me walk in. The living room had a fireplace, oversized windows, and a wall full of frames. All Harper. A photo of her in a lab coat at a science fair. One of her on the beach in a sundress. A graduation picture. Even a close-up of her holding a dog that wasn't theirs. Nothing of me. Not even one of those old photos where we were both kids. Cheryl gave me a quick house tour. She pointed out the wraparound porch, the renovated kitchen, and a spare bedroom that was perfect for guests, when needed. She made little comments while walking room to room. We wanted it to feel like home, and you're probably too busy with work to visit much anyway. My dad didn't say anything. I asked about the land around the house, got a quick answer, and then took a walk around by myself. I snapped pictures of the front gate, backyard fencing, and landscaping. I got photos of the license plates on the contractor trucks parked outside. Cheryl noticed and asked why I was taking so many pictures. I told her the place was beautiful and added that I hoped nothing ever disrupted their plans with it. Her mouth tightened like she bit a lemon. Later that evening, I asked my dad if we could speak alone. We stepped out to the back porch. I didn't waste time. I asked him why he was letting Cheryl erase me from everything. Photos, inheritance, even memories. He looked down at his hands and said I didn't need him anymore, but Harper did. That she was still finding her footing. I handed him the manila folder. It had a printed timeline, notes on account withdrawals, a copy of the property deed, and commentary from Olive marked in clean red text. He didn't speak for a long time after opening it. When he finally looked up, I told him I was leaving in the morning. The next day, I packed early and was gone before breakfast. Cheryl stood at the top of the stairs, holding a coffee mug. She didn't say goodbye. I got back home and booked an appointment with a lawyer. I explained everything. This wasn't a case of physical violence, but I wanted to know if it qualified as harassment, specifically emotional manipulation and financial coercion. The lawyer said it could, especially if I could prove a pattern and tie it to financial risk or loss. I already had half of that in the folder I gave my dad. I called my Aunt Teresa that night and asked if she would write a formal statement. She agreed and had it notarized 2 days later. She included notes about missing family albums, comments Cheryl had made over the years, and a few direct quotes from family events that painted a clear picture of exclusion. 2 mornings later, I got a voicemail from Cheryl. Her voice was sharp and fast. She accused me of spying, of snooping around her property, and said she had spoken to her lawyer about suing me for harassment. I saved the voicemail, then blocked her number completely. There's been no contact since, and there won't be again. Instead of responding, I made a post on Facebook. Nothing dramatic, just one sentence. Sometimes you don't realize how disposable you are to your own family until they redecorate your existence. I didn't name anyone. I didn't point fingers, but I got messages almost immediately. Old family friends reached out, asking if everything was okay. A few shared stories, times Cheryl had gone out of her way to embarrass me at gatherings or downplay anything I achieved. One friend from high school remembered a Christmas dinner where Cheryl accidentally left my name off the gift tags and made a joke about me being too old for presents anyway. I compiled every message, voice recording, screenshot, and notarized statement. With my lawyer's help, I formally filed for a protective order. It was granted on a temporary basis, pending a full review. This wasn't about revenge. Cheryl wanted to live in her perfect future, built on cutting me out piece by piece. But I wasn't going to let her rewrite my story while cashing checks that should have gone to my education, my future, my name. She wanted to erase me quietly. I was going to be louder on paper in court and under oath. The court set a date for the restraining order hearing. Cheryl was notified through her lawyer. I didn't contact her directly. She was already blocked. My lawyer took care of everything through proper channels. The court order was still temporary at that point, but the evidence was growing fast. 2 days after she got the notification, Cheryl posted a 5-paragraph rant on Facebook. She painted herself as the victim of a vengeful adult child, said I was mentally unstable, and claimed I was tearing our family apart because of jealousy. She added a blurry photo of Harper and my dad smiling at the Oregon property, with a caption about peace being worth fighting for. The comments section turned into a mix of sympathy and confusion. By the end of the day, a few cousins, an uncle, and 2 of my dad's coworkers reached out asking what was happening. I had already prepared a message. I sent them a short summary with a timeline of events, links to public records showing the mortgage and title history, and a scan of the notarized statement from Aunt Teresa. I kept it short, calm, and fact-based. No emotion, just receipts. That night, my dad sent a text. He asked why I was trying to destroy everything. I didn't go into detail. I just told him it wasn't about destruction. It was about making sure no one else tried to rewrite my life like it didn't count. A friend of mine who works in real estate helped me pull more detailed records. It turned out my dad had liquidated a portion of one of his retirement accounts to fund Cheryl's house. It wasn't a loan, it was a direct withdrawal, almost the exact amount that used to sit in the college fund before Cheryl had access to their shared financials. The timeline lined up. I added the new documents to my court file. I highlighted the old college fund account name, the withdrawal logs, and the Oregon County record showing the deed transfer. I wasn't speculating anymore. I had paper proof. While building my case, I reached out to 2 of Cheryl's former friends from her old neighborhood. These were people she had quietly stopped talking to years ago after they drifted apart. Both of them responded within a day. One sent a statement about how Cheryl used to mock my mom behind closed doors and call me the leftover. The other described how Cheryl had once hidden birthday cards that my dad's coworkers had sent to me. Their stories weren't dramatic, but they matched the pattern exactly. Then Harper messaged me. She said she didn't want to take sides, that she felt stuck, and that Cheryl had always been weirdly competitive about my achievements. She didn't deny anything. She didn't offer help either, just said she hated being caught in the middle. I didn't reply, but I saved the message. My lawyer filed an update to the restraining order. It now included emotional harassment, financial manipulation, and patterns of psychological targeting. We attached the ex-friend's statements and a few of Cheryl's recent public posts as supporting material. A week before the hearing, Cheryl contacted my workplace. She pretended to be concerned for my mental health, said I had isolated myself from family and was showing signs of instability. She asked to speak to my supervisor. My company's HR flagged the call immediately, logged her phone number, and looped in our legal team. They informed me and added a note to my file in case she tried again. My lawyer advised me to tighten everything. I changed every privacy setting on my devices and accounts, installed a camera doorbell, and started recording all voicemails. I also set up a burner email for any legal-related correspondence so my personal inbox wouldn't get cluttered. Out of nowhere, my dad sent an apology email. It didn't sound like him. It was stiff and full of legal language, probably reviewed by Cheryl's attorney. He didn't ask to meet, just said he acknowledged the mistakes and hoped for resolution. I didn't respond. Then Harper posted something public for the first time. It was just a simple line. Some truths are hard to face, but silence can make you complicit. It didn't name anyone, but people read between the lines. It stayed up for about a day, then she turned off comments. My Aunt Teresa made her final move. She contacted a family mediator, offered to speak on my behalf at the hearing, and showed up with a folder of old photos, documents, and letters, all things Cheryl had removed or edited. She even had a digital scan of a birthday card I made for my dad when I was 9, one that had disappeared from his office shelf years ago. 3 nights before the hearing, Cheryl showed up outside my apartment building. She screamed into the intercom system around 11 p.m. The camera caught her yelling slurs, banging on the call button, and shouting about how I had ruined everything. The whole thing was recorded. That video became the final piece of evidence. My lawyer submitted it the next morning. I didn't need to say a word. Cheryl had finally shown the court exactly who she was. No edits, no filters, no family photos to hide behind. Just raw, recorded truth. The hearing took place on a Friday morning. The courtroom wasn't packed, but it was tense. Cheryl arrived dressed in beige from head to toe, with pearls and a tissue in hand. She sat with her lawyer and kept dabbing under her eyes like she was already grieving. I walked in with my lawyer and my Aunt Teresa. I wore a navy suit, had everything printed and organized, and didn't speak unless asked. The judge opened by acknowledging the file size. Between notarized statements, bank documents, social media records, and videos, it was nearly 200 pages. He asked both sides to give brief opening summaries. Cheryl's lawyer called the situation family tension, taken too far, and emotional confusion. When asked directly about the financial records, he brushed them off as joint household decisions and tried to change the topic. The judge didn't let it slide. We submitted the financial withdrawal logs, the Oregon mortgage deed, the college fund statements, and the public land records, all side by side with a timeline my lawyer had prepared, complete with annotations and footnotes. Every number matched. Then came the video. My lawyer asked the court to watch a short clip before continuing. It was the intercom footage. Cheryl's voice filled the room, yelling threats and accusations into the speaker. The judge paused the video halfway through, looked directly at Cheryl, and asked if she wanted to adjust her statement about not having contacted me. Her lawyer whispered something. Cheryl didn't speak. The judge ruled within the hour. The restraining order was made permanent. Cheryl could not contact me, be within 200 feet of my home or workplace, or communicate through any third party. Violating it would now be a misdemeanor offense. It was official, entered into record. But things didn't stop there. While reviewing the mortgage documentation during the case, my lawyer pointed out something odd. The income Cheryl listed on her mortgage application didn't match what she had claimed in court. One said she was self-employed with a 6-figure income. The other showed minimal income and financial dependence. The judge asked for both copies, reviewed them, and paused again. He made a note and asked the clerk to submit copies to the local district attorney's office. He said it may fall under mortgage misrepresentation or fraud. Cheryl didn't speak for the rest of the session. That same week, the bank that co-signed Cheryl's property reached out to my dad. They asked for clarification about the source of funds and co-ownership. My dad, who had tried to avoid being pulled into court officially, was now being asked to provide full documentation of their joint accounts. He couldn't stall it anymore. Cheryl was now facing a separate investigation for submitting inconsistent financial documents and possibly using shared funds without proper authorization. Her dream retirement house had just turned into a potential legal mess. Word got around quickly. A few of her former friends started quietly removing her from social media. One deleted a birthday post from 2 years ago that had Cheryl tagged. Another posted a vague quote about wolves and pearls. Even some relatives from my dad's side stopped engaging with her public posts. My dad reached out to Aunt Teresa. He asked if there was a way back from this. Said he didn't realize how far Cheryl had taken things and didn't want to lose me forever. Aunt Teresa told him flatly that he already had. He just hadn't noticed it until now. A few days later, I got an email from my dad. It was short. He said he was sorry and that he planned to put my graduation photo back up in the hallway. I didn't answer. Harper moved out of the Oregon house temporarily. According to my aunt, she went to stay with a friend in Portland. Told people she needed space. She hasn't posted anything online since the hearing. The court also issued Cheryl her first fine, a small amount for violating the restraining order, by showing up at my building. It wasn't about the money. It was the first formal consequence she couldn't excuse or hide. After the hearing, my lawyer submitted a motion to have Cheryl's role in financial decision-making reviewed. We included her history of exclusion, manipulative behavior, and the misuse of joint funds. The court agreed to assign a financial evaluator to investigate further. It wouldn't happen overnight, but it meant someone outside the family would be going through the numbers, and Cheryl wouldn't be in control of the narrative anymore. Everything Cheryl tried to bury was now on paper, under review, and in court records. She spent years controlling the story with fake smiles and well-timed erasures. But this time, every detail was filed, stamped, and confirmed. Not in a scrapbook or a Facebook post, but in permanent legal record. 3 days after the court ruled in my favor, Cheryl filed a counterclaim. She accused me of defamation and emotional distress, citing Facebook posts and text messages she claimed were threatening. The screenshots were taken out of context. One was a general post about setting boundaries. Another was a message I sent asking why she had removed my photo. Her lawyer submitted them with a handful of emails that didn't mention her by name. It was clear she was trying to flip the narrative. The judge dismissed the counterclaim almost immediately. He called it meritless and noted it seemed more like retaliation than a genuine legal complaint. He advised Cheryl's attorney to focus on the real issues at hand if they wanted to preserve their credibility. It didn't go unnoticed in the courtroom that Cheryl didn't even look surprised, just embarrassed. That weekend, my Aunt Teresa went to a small family dinner on my dad's side. Cheryl was there. According to people who attended, Teresa didn't hold back. She stood up during the meal and laid out everything, how Cheryl had erased me from family spaces, funneled money out of my father's accounts, and weaponized silence to push me out. She didn't yell. She just stated facts, backed by court records. After that, 3 people left the table early, and 2 others called me privately to say they were sorry for not asking questions sooner. Aunt Teresa gave me something else that night. It was a photo album from my grandfather's collection. Inside were pictures of me at every age, birthday cakes, snowmen, school plays. There was even one from the science fair I won in middle school. Most of these photos had been missing for years. She found the album sealed in a plastic bin labeled holiday decor in my dad's garage. Cheryl had tucked it away during a remodel and never brought it back out. Meanwhile, the Oregon property hit another roadblock. Because of the mortgage inconsistencies, Cheryl's name was now flagged on the title. She couldn't sell, refinance, or transfer ownership until the fraud inquiry finished. Her retirement escape plan was frozen. Her online listing quietly disappeared. My dad's legal situation got worse too. His original attorney withdrew from representing him after discovering Cheryl had withheld documents during the early asset reviews. That forced my dad to find a new lawyer and restart the process from scratch. The bank also requested a complete review of their shared finances going back 2 years. It became clear to everyone involved that Cheryl hadn't just bent the rules, she had rewritten them entirely. Around the same time, I submitted an anonymous report to the Homeowners Association in Cheryl's new neighborhood. In the property records, there were details about modifications she had made, custom fencing, outdoor lighting, a new patio that hadn't been approved. The association began its own inquiry, and Cheryl received a formal letter about code violations. A week later, Harper sent me a short message. She said she didn't realize how bad it had become and apologized. I didn't reply, but I also didn't block her. I saved the message and left it there. Then someone created a post on a popular subreddit. It included screenshots of Cheryl's public statements, redacted court documents, and timeline screenshots. The comments filled up fast. Most people connected the dots easily. I didn't make the post, but I saw it. It went semi-viral, and Cheryl deleted 3 of her social media profiles within 24 hours. Word got back to me that my dad had started therapy. According to my aunt, he told the therapist he lost his daughter over nothing. Aunt Teresa corrected him, said he lost me over Cheryl. The therapist apparently agreed. It didn't stop Cheryl from pushing the limits. She tried to mail me a handwritten letter through a mutual acquaintance, asking them to just drop it off. That person called my lawyer instead. We logged it as a violation of the restraining order. The court issued a second fine and a formal warning. One more infraction and she'd be facing misdemeanor charges. My aunt started hearing whispers that my dad had begun meeting with a divorce attorney. It wasn't official yet, but the tone of their household had shifted. Harper moved out permanently, taking a job interview in another state. She told someone she didn't plan on coming back to Oregon. With all that unfolding, I went over to my aunt's house for dinner. We installed my graduation photo together, placing it next to a cabinet of heirlooms. She had a brass nameplate made for the frame with my full name and graduation date. For the first time in a long while, that photo didn't feel temporary. It wasn't hung to prove a point. It was there because it belonged. Aunt Teresa was the one who gave me the heads up. The divorce filing was official. It hadn't hit the public database yet, but she had a friend in the clerk's office. My dad listed irreconcilable differences. No blame assigned. No drawn-out court battle. Just a clean exit on paper. It was quiet and fast, like he wanted to erase Cheryl the same way she tried to erase me. A week later, I got a letter from his attorney asking for a mediated meeting. It would be in a neutral space, no private location, no contact outside of the arranged time. I agreed. Not out of some emotional shift, just because I wanted to hear what he would say without Cheryl standing over his shoulder. The meeting happened at a law office downtown. We sat across from each other at a small conference table. He looked older, thinner. There was no small talk. He said losing me had forced him to look at his life honestly. He admitted that he allowed things to happen because it was easier than standing up to Cheryl. He said it wasn't fair. He said a few other things too, but I didn't say much. I let it sit. The mediator closed the session after an hour, and that was that. Harper left Oregon completely. She relocated to Denver for a job in research and development. She didn't message this time, she sent a letter. It was handwritten, a few pages. She didn't excuse anything. She said she let silence do too much of the talking, and that it took her leaving the house to really see how warped everything had become. She didn't ask for a relationship, but she wished me well. It felt honest. I saved it. The restraining order was reviewed again, and the judge extended it another 2 years. My lawyer presented the record of Cheryl trying to send a letter through someone we both knew. That person admitted Cheryl pressured her to deliver it. The judge didn't even need long to rule. The term stayed, and the clock restarted. Cheryl's fraud case ended quietly. She didn't face charges, but she had to pay a fine, complete community service, and attend financial counseling. The judge noted that her inconsistencies would remain on record and flagged her for future audits if she applied for new loans. Her name had also been blocked from having financial control over shared assets moving forward. The Oregon property was listed within a month of the divorce being filed. Cheryl couldn't afford it alone, and my dad refused to keep paying for something he no longer wanted. The listing stayed up for weeks, then dropped $40,000. When it finally sold, it was at a loss. I found the Zillow link one night and saved a screenshot of the empty hallway, no photos on the walls. Just blank space. The extended family chat got revived. This time I was added by Aunt Teresa. It had baby pictures, birthday updates, and casual plans for get-togethers. Nobody brought up Cheryl. She was just gone. I didn't have to explain my absence anymore. I was just there, and that was enough. Cheryl's online presence disappeared almost overnight. Her Instagram, gone. Her Facebook, wiped except for one last post, a vague quote about losing people to envy. A couple of her former friends commented yikes before it vanished too. That's the last I heard of her. No contact, no noise, no more third-party letters. Then a package arrived from my dad. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Inside was my original graduation photo, reframed. Simple wood, nothing fancy. There was a handwritten note, this should have never left the wall. No explanation, no request. Just that one sentence. I started therapy around that time, not because anything was breaking down, but because I needed to stop carrying it all like it hadn't changed anything. I had to accept that the dad I thought I had stopped existing years ago, and the one I have now is a different person. Not worse, not better, just different. Then I got a job offer, a full-time position leading a sustainability project in Vancouver. It was everything I had worked for, and then some. I took it, packed up my place, sold what I didn't need, and crossed the border to start over. Aunt Teresa threw a family cookout before I left. I brought someone with me, a guy I'd been seeing for a few months. Nobody acted weird about it. They joked, asked questions, welcomed him like he'd always been there. At one point someone said, "At least no one brought a prom photo this time," and the whole table laughed. Before I moved, I visited my dad one last time. He met me outside. No Cheryl, no furniture from the old days, just a quiet house and a man who finally looked like he lived alone. We didn't talk about the past. We didn't talk about her. As I turned to leave, I said, "You almost lost me forever." He looked up and said, "I know. I'm just glad it's an almost."